So, according to the official Cambridge website, the percentage of students who got a B or above in their respective A-level subject in the summer of 2024 was as follows. Maths 55%, chemistry 55%, physics 53.1%, biology 52.2%. Now, we all know that A-levels are significantly harder than GCSEs, but does anyone know why? There's a simple reason. In GCSEs, you could get away with just memorization, just, actually studying a week or two before your exams. But when it comes to A levels, it is quite different because A level is more conceptual. You need to understand rather than memorize. So a lot of students, take the GCSEs mindset and go to A levels, and then they're shocked when it doesn't work out. Simply because A level requires you to link different topics, apply applications from, IGCSE, from AS level, from A level. It is very broad. They might ask you stuff that's not in the textbook, so you need to be ready at any time to answer any question. And the problem is a lot of students are not. They don't expect these type of questions to come. They're like, I studied this, but this is coming. And then it just becomes weird, and that is why a lot of students lose mark. And as you can see from the statistic, only 55% of students are able to get a B or above in their exams. So how exactly can you avoid making the same mistake millions of students make every single year when they go from GCSEs to A levels, and how exactly can you get that A or A star when it comes to A levels? So in today's video, I'm going to give you a couple of tips that allowed me to get better grades when I went into A levels and not make the same mistakes as others. So without wasting any more of your time, let's dive straight into the video. Point number one, and the most important point of this video, is understanding the concept. Now this is the difference between GCSEs and A levels. In GCSEs, you can just get away with memorization, and you could study 2 weeks before the exam and still get an A star. It was not that hard. But when it comes to A levels, if you try studying 2 weeks before an exam, trust me, you're gonna get something like a D or a C, because A level requires you to understand the concept fully. And it's not just, you can memorize and get away with it. It is impossible to do that in A levels. So the most important thing for you to do is understand what you're actually learning, especially for subjects like chemistry and physics. It's so important that you know that exactly what you're learning, why this is happening, how does it happen. And basically, you should just know that, why am I learning this and how does it occur? Once you start understanding the concept, it becomes so much easier for you to understand the question and answer it, because you can link the topic to different areas. You can apply your knowledge. You can make stuff up in your brain, because then you actually know why stuff happens, so you can try linking it with different things. So please, before you do anything, make sure you understand the concept of whatever topic you're studying, because that is probably the most essential tip that I can give you. Now, tip number two is learning from questions. Now, what do I mean by this? The best example that I can give you is when I was doing chemistry past papers, there was always one or two questions that, I never understood them, because they were not in the textbook, they were not in the notes, they were not in anything. And these questions are called application based questions, and what they are, essentially what they do is they don't test you from the textbook or something from memorization. Rather than whatever you've learned in the topic, they will ask you to relate it somewhere to that. And the only way that you can answer those questions is by actually learning and understanding the topic. Now, what I want you to do is, every time you come across a question that is an unfamiliar question, then I want you to go ahead and write it down somewhere, or just memorize it, because the chances are that question may come again. Those questions can be repeated. So if you see some question like that, please do write it down wherever you do, in your flashcards, in your notes, whatever it is. I don't recommend taking notes, by the way, but still, if you do, please do write it down, because it may come useful next time. There were so many instances with me that, I saw a question, and then in the next paper I saw that same question again, and it was not just some memorization type question, it was an application based question. So once I understood from the marking scheme of the first paper that this is how to answer it, it was much easier for me when I did the second paper. So I want you to go ahead and do the same, memorize it, understand it, and then write it down somewhere. It makes things very easy for you. So point number three is discussing and watching videos. I'll come to the discussing point first. Basically, if you don't understand the topic, if you don't understand a concept, I want you to go ahead and ask someone. So whether that be your friends, your parents, your teachers, whatever it is, I want you to go ahead and ask every single person that you can until you 100% understand that topic. What this does is it gives you different point of views. So for example, your friend might understand it one way, your other friend might understand it a different way. When you combine those two, you might understand it fully. You know what I mean? Because your first friend would understand it in a different way. He might have a different perspective on it. Your second friend may have a different perspective on it. So when you combine those two, you might start understanding the topic better. So the more people that you ask, the more your understanding gets better, and it makes things so much easier for you. And watching videos is basically just simple. So for example, there was an experiment in AS level called calorimetry, which is basically just measuring the enthalpy change and temperature change or something like that. I don't really remember it. And the best way that I found to understand it, because you can see the procedure written on your textbook, and you're like, oh, okay, do this, use a lid to insulate it, and all of that stuff, right? But you don't really understand that properly unless I went onto YouTube and I searched up calorimetry experiment, and I watched the whole video, and I got a much better understanding of the topic, purely because I could visualize it. Like, I could see, okay, this is happening now. It made the process much easier for me, rather than just reading whatever was in the textbook, which you really don't want to do, because all it does is make things harder for you. So what you want to do is go onto YouTube. If there's an experiment or if there's a concept you're struggling with, go ahead and watch a practical experiment on it. When you're able to visualize things, it becomes much easier for you. Similarly, when it comes to forces in physics, you're not going to understand it if you try to do it just in your brain. The best way I found to answer forces questions is basically just draw a diagram. It makes things so much easier for you to visualize in your mind and then draw a diagram. This is something I learned from YouTube itself, and there's a lot of stuff you can learn, and the best way to do it is by searching and going the extra mile to learn. And when you do go the extra mile to learn something new, it has its own benefits that you won't realize until you write the exam. And last but not least, point number 4, question everything. What this means is basically every time you're learning a concept, you might want to question yourself. Why is this happening? How does this happen? Why does it occur? For example, I can give another chemistry example here. In GCSEs, it used to be 288, the electronic configuration, but when you come to AS level, it's 1s2, 2s2. You're supposed to write it like that. Now, have you ever wondered why that happens? So you should be questioning yourself. Oh, why does this happen? Does this happen even? Is this just a theory? Is it actual? Is it practical? Everything. Ask yourself, question yourself on every single thing. Why does this happen? Once you start questioning yourself, you're gonna start expanding your knowledge. You're gonna actually understand the topic, like, oh, this is why this happens, and you're not gonna forget it because you question yourself. Why does this happen? Then the moment you start searching it, you're going to understand it, and you're not going to forget it again. Trust me, question everything. It actually helps a lot. So for example, when I was doing chemistry, I used to just memorize, and I ended up getting a very bad mark in one of my papers because Unit 2 was more conceptual based rather than memorization. And because of that, I have to retake it. But when I'm restudying it now, it makes things so much easier for me to understand, questioning myself, looking at experiments looking at experiments people doing online. It makes things a lot easier for me, and because of that, I've noticed that my understanding of the topic has grown much more. And use your textbook. The textbook goes into extra detail that simple notes might not go into, so using the textbook can also allow you to understand the topic properly and expand your knowledge. And it's that easy. All you need to do for A levels is actually understand the concept, and things become so much more easier for you. Anyways, that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe. I've not uploaded in a while, and that was because as I said, I was busy with my retake and all of that, which are in October. So I'm going to try to stay consistent. I have a couple of podcasts coming up for you guys as well. If you want to watch this video, you can go ahead and check this out, and you can subscribe to my channel here. Thank you for watching again. See you soon, and goodbye.